decades.
There are just a
The
few
U.S.
phrases
government
that
line
can
was
really
basically
set the internet on fire, kick off
supernatural
months
stuff,
of
psychic powers,
frantic
telepathy,
searching,
seeing things
but for
far
folks
away with your
tracking the
mind.
hidden side of
Pure
space
fantasy.
exploration.
That's what they told everyone.
One phrase
Yeah,
is
that was the
huge
public
right
face. Complete skepticism.
JAXA.
While that was the
found
official
an
story.
alien.
Behind
And that
closed
right
doors,
there,
something.
That's kind of the perfect storm
something
for a
much
conspiracy
stranger
theory,
was
isn't it?
apparently
Because you're
going
not
on.
talking about just
Deep
any
inside
lab.
the intelligence
You're talking about
community.
JAXA.
It's a really
the
interesting
Japan Aerospace
contrast, isn't it?
Exploration Agency.
Publicly, it's all scientific
These guys are,
dismissal.
globally
privately,
respected,
the Pentagon,
known
the
for
CIA,
really careful,
they're clearly
methodical,
wrestling with
top-tier
something very
science.
different.
Exactly.
These
So the
fantasies
tension
suddenly
between
become
JAXA's
a serious strategic
verifiable,
Exactly.
impeccable
and that
reputation,
worry,
and
that
just the
sort of
sheer
creeping
wildness
fear
of
about
the
psychic
claim
warfare, it leads to
that
one
they
of
found
the
actual
honestly
biological
most
alien
bizarre
remains.
and
That's
top
what makes it
secret projects
weirdly
of the whole
compelling.
Cold War.
Shockingly
Project
compelling,
Sunscreen.
yeah. It hits
I mean,
different
just
coming
picture
from
it.
them.
Right.
An
So
actual
our mission
government
today, just to be
project
clear,
trying to
isn't
weaponize
about
the human
confirming
mind,
space
funded
tissue
off
steadily.
subtly.
Yeah.
It's about analyzing
And officially, the cover
We've got a bunch of
story, or maybe
sources
the initial
detailing this whole
idea was
narrative.
Yeah.
remote
The supposed
viewing.
evidence, the
Right.
official
This
reactions, and
supposed
the very
ability
specific
for trained
logic,
people to
cultural
just
and psychological
perceive
that holds this myth
distant
together.
places,
What does
secret
this
enemy
story
bases,
really
maybe
tell us
even
about
peek
our
into the
desire
future,
for cosmic
all just using their
discovery, maybe?
minds.
And
Or
we should be
perhaps
clear,
more
this wasn't
accurately,
some
our
side
distrust
hobby.
of
It
big
wasn't just a few
institutions.
folks
Okay,
messing
let's
around.
dig into this.
This was
So
a
what's
strategic
fascinating
move,
is how
a
quickly the
direct
narrative
response
just
to what
snaps
they
into
thought
that
the Soviets were
classic
doing.
cover-up template.
They were
It
urgently
starts
trying
with
to
the
get an
inciting
edge
incident.
in a
It
completely
always
new
seems to
kind
begin
of,
with a returning
battlefield.
Japanese probe.
And that's what we're doing today. We're
And the
going to
sources
peel
we
back
looked
those
at,
layers
they
of
suggest this
secrecy,
part is kept
really
deliberately vague.
deep dive
Sometimes
into
it's
Project
Moonlander,
Sunstreak,
other times an
and the
asteroid
kind of
sampler
wild
like
conspiracy
Hayabusa.
Right,
theories
doesn't
that
really
are still
matter which
swirling
one. The
around
point
it.
is,
Yeah, because the
it's
story
coming
goes
home.
way beyond
Everything
just
seems
psychic
normal.
spying.
Mission
Oh,
control is
absolutely.
watching the data
It might have
stream.
cracked open the
Until
door to,
suddenly,
well,
bang,
alien
an
contact.
anomaly.
Could
Maybe
be a
even,
weird image,
some sources
maybe.
suggest,
Or
interdimensional
sometimes the
conflict.
story
gets
says
pretty
it's
out
an
there.
odd reading
really
on a
does.
spectrum.
So we're going to look at where it
Something
came from, the really
suggesting,
unsettling things that
complex
viewers were
organic
reporting seeing,
structures,
Where?
the
or even actual tissue.
weird
And
overlaps
that's the
with
moment
old
the
occult
story
stuff,
pivots
and these
instantly
incredible claims
from
about
routine
contacting
science to like a national
the
security
unknown.
crisis.
So yeah,
The second that
settlement,
anomaly
this is
pops
where
up, the
things get
claim
weird.
is
So
secrecy
where did
clamps down.
Sunstreak even come
Hard.
from? Right. It really
And
kicks
the very
off back
first
in the
bit
early
of
70s. There
so-called
was this sort
evidence
of
that hits the message
quiet
boards.
panic
It's always
brewing
a
in
grain
the
screen
intelligence
grab.
world
Yep.
during the Cold War.
Right.
Usually
Word
some
got
dark
out that
blob
the
on a
Soviets
bright
were pouring
background.
serious
And it's got
money
that
and effort into
perfect cryptic
parapsychology.
caption,
And not just dabbling.
anomalous
We're talking
organic readings,
state-sponsored
quarantine
experiments,
initiated.
Telepathy,
Chilling, right?
moving
Totally.
objects with
And
the
right
mind,
after that
psychokinesis,
spark,
and
you get the
crucially,
claims of
remote
institutional
Yeah,
blocking.
and when
You
U.S.
start seeing
intelligence
these
picked up on
alleged
this,
internal emails leaked.
alarms went
The
off.
classic, do
Big
not
time.
disclose,
The Pentagon,
under
especially.
J-class
You can
hold,
imagine the fear,
notify
right? What if
headquarters
this stuff
only.
is real? Even if it only
That
gives a small
phrasing is
advantage.
key to the
Exactly.
whole
The
narrative
U.S.
feel.
could be
Okay, wait,
completely
let's pause there. J-class
blindsided in a
hold.
conflict
Is that-
that doesn't
Is
use
that a real
bombs or spies
JAXA
in the
thing, or is that
traditional
just part of the
So
story's
this
lore?
perceived
Oh, that's
threat,
absolutely
this
part of the
potential
fabricated lore.
psychic
But
gap,
it's brilliant, isn't it?
leads
Because it
directly
sounds
to the
so
CIA
official,
starting
so
Project
plausible.
Stargate.
Yeah, it does.
Which
In
was
this
kind of the
narrative,
umbrella
a J-class
program. And
hold
under
means
Stargate,
a
you get
security
these
level
sub-projects.
so high,
Project
completely
Sunstreak was
bypasses
one of
the normal
them,
scientific
run by the
review
Defense
process. It
Intelligence
goes straight
Agency,
to,
the
like,
DIA,
military
mostly
or
through
top
the
government
1980s.
oversight.
Okay.
And the
So
claim is,
Sunstreak
under this
gets
made-up
going.
J-class hold, a
And
security
on
team flies
paper,
out a sample, and it's
its
definitely
job
not just boring
sounds,
moon dust or
well,
asteroid grit.
almost
No, it's
straightforward for that world.
disturbingly like
Recruit
tissue.
people, train them
And the
as remote
moment that
viewers,
word tissue hits the
get them
story,
to project their
it's
consciousness,
game over for simple
basically,
contamination
and spy on
explanations.
Soviet facilities.
Now it's about alien
gather
life.
intel.
Full
Standard
stop.
espionage.
And that really shows
just
how
with
these
a
myths
very
build, doesn't it?
unconventional method.
But
Why
that's not
does
how
the
it played
story
out, was it?
immediately
It became
jump to
clear
that
pretty
specific
fast this
pattern?
wasn't just about finding
Anomaly,
missile
silence.
silos.
So almost
Massive
right away, the
secret
viewers weren't
government
just
action.
describing
Because that pattern is
submarine
instantly
pens or
familiar,
radar
and it fills the
installations.
information
data
vacuum
started
of pure
getting
distrust.
weird.
Think about it.
Weird how?
If JAXA
Well, that
had
was
just
the
come
big
out and
turning
said,
point,
look,
really.
we found some
The viewers
complex
started
carbon
reporting
molecules
things
could
that,
be interesting
based on
or
our
enacting
normal
standard
understanding of physics and
contamination
reality,
protocols,
shouldn't
the
exist.
story
Things that
probably
shouldn't
fizzles
exist.
out.
Okay, now we're
Boring.
getting
Yeah,
science as usual.
Yeah,
Exactly.
The information they
But
were
by
bringing
claiming
back
there's a
was
secret
pushing
J-class hold
way
and
past the
shadowy
boundaries of
security
what
teams
anyone
whisking
expected.
things away.
It fundamentally
Well, then
challenged
the
what
lack
the
of
program
official
was
detail
supposed
isn't
to be
seen
doing.
as caution.
So
It's
tell
seen
me
as
about these
proof of a
viewers.
cover-up.
They weren't just
It
random people
confirms
off the
every
street,
suspicion for
Yeah.
people
Many had
already
military
skeptical of
backgrounds.
big
That's right, often
organizations.
military
This is
personnel.
where it gets really interesting.
And
though.
they went through
The
this really
messengers.
specific,
No
structured
conspiracy
training,
theory thrives in a vacuum.
controlled
what makes
protocols
this
was the term,
JAXA
like
story
coordinate
so
remote viewing or CRV.
sticky,
CRV,
I guess.
okay. So
is
it
the type of
wasn't
person who
just
supposedly
like
leaks
closing
the
your
info.
eyes and hoping
You're
for
never
the
going to
best.
hear
No,
this
no,
from
very
the head of
systematic.
JAXA. They
Right.
might be given just
The
a
voice
set
is
of
pushing this
geographic
narrative.
coordinates or
They're
maybe
almost
a random
always
number
anonymous
linked
texts
to a target. Then they go
pseudonymous
through these
leakers
stages, sort of
online or people
drilling
claiming
down,
to be
describing
whistleblowers,
sensory details,
but with very
sketching
ordinary
impressions,
jobs. Contractors,
trying
maybe
to build a
engineers,
picture
sometimes
of a
even
target they knew
janitors.
nothing
And their
about
stories were often
consciously.
disturbingly
Often
specific.
something
like,
hidden
take the
miles
young
away, maybe
technician
even
story
sealed
that
in an
pops
up a lot.
envelope
Oh, yeah,
right
that
there
one's
in the room?
classic.
The
And did it
source
work?
material we
Actually.
reviewed
Well, the
details this
early
person
results
claiming
were
they saw
apparently
a translucent
intriguing.
object,
Impressive, maybe,
like
but
the
small
size of a
scale.
child's hand.
You know, sketches
Inside
that
a
looked
clean room
surprisingly
glove
like
box.
a Soviet factory.
And the detail that
details
sticks
about
is
a
that
hidden
it
bunker
supposedly
that later
pulsed
matched
faintly.
spy photos.
Like it had veins or
Enough
something
to keep the
inside.
funding
and the tech is
flowing,
instantly told,
definitely.
Okay,
look
so
away,
it had some
get out.
legs.
Yeah.
Creepy.
But then, like
And
you
you got
said,
the
things
janitor's
took a
account.
turn.
Right.
A sharp
he claims
turn,
he
yeah,
saw this
because it's one
unmarked
thing to
black
sketch a
case
building
being
wheeled
wheeled
onto
onto
a truck
It's
middle of the
something
night,
else
and it
entirely
wasn't heading
when
for
you're
a
training
science lab. It
military
was clearly
viewers
going
start
towards a
military
military experiences
bases.
that just
And then the clincher.
flat out defy the material
Days later, he
world
gets
as we know
visited
it.
by the
What-
gentleman in suits.
What kind of things?
Well,
they politely but
get
firmly
this. Some
suggest he
viewers
keep
started
quiet about
reporting
what he saw.
energy
That
beings.
detail the
What
man
are you
in suits.
beings?
It's pure
Yeah.
conspiracy.
Not people,
folklore
not
gold.
animals,
It
just
really is.
conscious energy
But why
forms
does
that
that
were apparently
ordinary
watching them
messenger,
while they were doing their
the
remote
janitor,
viewing.
like
low-level
low-level
tech.
viewers. Okay, that's great. Why
Right.
does that work
Others
so much
claimed
better
they
for the
weren't just
public
moving across
imagination
space,
than
but
if,
across time.
say, a top
Getting
scientist
glimpses
made
of
the claim?
ancient
Well, think
history
about it. If
or
a
even
really
future
high-level
events.
scientist
Whoa.
goes public with
Time
something
travel.
this wild,
That's what they
they're
reported.
immediately vulnerable,
There's
right?
one
People will
really
say they're
famous
eccentric,
or
maybe
infamous
unreliable,
account.
seeking
A
attention.
viewer
They have a
insisted
reputation,
they
a
saw the Egyptian
career,
pyramids
potentially
being
a lot to lose,
but not by
or gain.
Egyptians.
Okay, makes sense.
By,
But when it's a
quote,
janitor
tall,
Yeah.
or a
luminous
contractor who
entities.
didn't see the alien
Luminous
itself but
entities
just saw the
building
pattern of
pyramids.
secrecy,
I mean, that
the
sounds
black
like something
trucks,
from
the
a,
midnight
fringe
movements, the men in
documentary.
suits.
Exactly. Except
That
these
feels
were reports
different.
coming
It
from
resonates as a
within
more
a classified
fundamental
military
kind of relatable
intelligence
truth.
program. That's
The
what makes you
powerful
stop
are
and
hiding
think.
things from
Yeah,
the little
definitely.
guy.
Any other examples?
The individual
yeah.
accounts might
Another
even
one,
contradict
just
each
strange.
other on minor
A
details,
viewer
but the
claimed
tone
they
is
found
perfectly
hidden
consistent.
spacecraft under the ice in
Institutional
Antarctica.
fear and secrecy.
Hidden
That's the
spacecraft.
deal.
Okay, so
Like
now let's turn to
UFOs.
the agency
It
itself.
seems to be the implication.
JAXA.
And guarded,
I mean,
apparently,
like any
by
agency
some kind of
handling pristine
consciousness that
samples from
resisted
space, they must have
intrusion,
incredibly
like
strict
a psychic
rules.
guard dog,
Chain of
but
custody,
not a dog.
contamination,
Okay,
quarantine.
wow.
So
They
these
have to be
reports,
cautious
where there's
if
just
anything
ignored,
unusual shows
filed
up.
away as
Absolutely.
crazy.
Well,
Standard
officially, a lot of the
operating
stuff was
procedure
probably
demands
downplayed or
extreme
buried,
caution.
classified deep.
Anything else would
But
be
inside the
irresponsible.
project,
And in the narrative
the
we're
whispers
dissecting,
started.
their official
The idea
language
took hold
reflects
that maybe
It's
remote
described
viewing
as
wasn't just
brief,
about spying
very
on the
measured,
Soviets
totally
anymore.
procedural.
Maybe.
So they say
Maybe it
something
was
like,
about making
mission
contact.
data is
This is
under
where it gets
review.
even stranger,
Standard
right?
quarantine
The connection
procedures
or
were
the
enacted
apparent
for a
connection to
suspicious sample.
Exactly.
occult
and
practices.
crucially, no mention
Yes,
of
that's
life,
another layer
no
to this
mention
whole
of
thing that's just
organic
fascinating.
tissue or anything
People
genuinely
within the program
extraordinary. Just
apparently started noticing these
procedure.
disturbing
So how does that
parallels
very
between
careful,
the remote
almost
viewing techniques
bureaucratic
they were developing
silence
and refining,
get
and
interpreted by
practices
the
found
community
in
that's
really
following this
old
myth?
Oh, it's
occult
instant. It's
traditions.
immediately flagged
Occult
as
traditions,
filling
like
to cover.
Yeah.
Methods
Methods on the lack
described
of
in
specific
esoteric
detail as
orders.
proof of
Groups
massive
like the
concealment. For
Hermetic
them,
Order
caution
of the
itself
Golden
is the
Dawn
smoking gun.
or the
So the fact that
Rosicrucians.
JAXA didn't
Okay.
They were looking
explicitly
at
deny
rituals
finding
for
life.
astral
is twisted
projection,
into an
achieving
admission. They
trance
just talked about
states,
standard
intense
quarantine.
visualization
That non-denial
exercises,
becomes the
whole
confirmation
idea
in
of
the
separating
conspiracist
your
mindset.
consciousness
And
from your physical
that
body.
official
Wait, so the
silence,
technique
that
Sunstreak
vacuum,
was teaching its military
then
viewers.
just generates
seem
this
to
explosion
directly
of
mirror
speculation.
these
Yeah.
It
ancient
fuels all these
mystical
multiplied rumors
practices. It's
about
quite
what the
striking
government
when
is
you put them
supposedly
side by
doing
side.
behind the
So the
scenes.
question
Precisely.
becomes,
You immediately start
was the
hearing
Pentagon,
whispers
was
of
the
a secret
DIA
joint task force,
inadvertently stumbling
JAXA, and the
onto, or maybe
self-defense forces
rediscovering
working together.
some kind of ancient
Late-night phone
technique,
calls buzzing
something
between
mystics and
embassies,
secret
urgent
societies have been
hushed
using for
consultations
centuries.
with,
That's
you
the
know,
implication,
NASA
yeah.
or ESA.
Was this military
The
intelligence
more
program
boring
actually
and
an
bureaucratic the
unwitting or
official
maybe
statement
witting
is,
occult experiment?
the more high-stakes drama,
mind-bending
global
thought. And it
secrecy,
didn't
and
stop there,
covert
did it?
coordination
The
the believers
experiences got
inject
darker.
into that
They
empty
did.
space. Some viewers
like
started
narrative
reporting
physics,
encounters
Which brings
with
us neatly to
actively
the actual
hostile
evidence
presences.
people share online.
How?
These
They
conspiracy
describe,
communities,
you know,
they collect and
entering a
circulate this stuff
location
with
mentally,
incredible energy.
projecting their consciousness
But their
there
way of
only
interpreting
to be
it,
confronted.
it's
not by
fundamentally
human
different from the
guards,
scientific method,
but
isn't
by
it?
what
Oh,
they
completely.
describe
They're
as
basically
shadowy
cataloging
entities,
ambiguity. You see
things
those
that seem
blurry, grainy
fully aware of
screenshots
their
we talk
psychic
about?
intrusion
Is that a
and
shadow on a
actively try to
rock in a
block
regular
them or
shape,
push
an
them
organic
out.
looking
Aware of
smear?
them.
Who knows?
Like
But
psychic
they also
guards.
circulate things like
Essentially, yes.
redacted documents,
Which raises a really
internal
profound
memos
and
with
frankly
huge
unsettling
sections blacked
possibility.
out.
Which is
And for the
Well, if
believers,
the human
the
mind
gaps
can actually
themselves
travel
aren't just
outside
gaps.
the body,
They're read as
maybe
confirmation
maybe
that
those
something
non-physical
truly
realms aren't
awful
empty.
or
Maybe
amazing
other
is being
intelligences
hidden.
already live
They're
there.
Maybe they
literally
don't
analyzing
appreciate
the
visitors.
negative space.
Exactly.
obsession with
Entities
flight
that
logs.
really didn't
I've
want
seen threads
people like
tracking
Sun
cargo
Street
flights
viewers
going in and
poking
out of
around. It makes
military
you wonder,
bases around the
was Sun
supposed
Street
time the
opening
mission
doors
returned.
that had been
Yep.
deliberately
Trying to
shut
match them up,
for a very
claiming
long
prove
time,
suspicious
for a good
transfers,
Okay, so if
connecting
they were
totally
opening doors,
routine military logistics
what exactly
directly
did
to
they
the
find
space
on the
mission
other
sample.
side?
There's also that
Because some of the most
cluster of
sensational
contractor
claims
illnesses that
are
sometimes
about
gets woven in.
well,
Right,
aliens.
which could have been anything flu season,
Extraterrestrial.
bad
Absolutely.
cafeteria
This
food,
is where the
totally
story really
coincidental.
goes into high
But
gear. We
retrospectively,
actually have
it gets stitched
declassified
into the
documents,
narrative as
fragments,
proof of
hints
dangerous
really that suggest
contamination,
some
maybe
remote
even
viewing
some kind
sessions
of
were
alien
specifically
pathogen.
targeting
Okay,
Mars.
but as an
Mars.
analyst looking
Like
at this,
Yeah.
the planet
how
Mars.
easily
the
can
planet
this
Mars.
evidence be picked apart
There's
by
one
skeptics?
particularly
Because,
famous
to an
session
outsider,
often cited where a
that
viewer
smear
gave
could
this
just be lens
incredibly
flare.
detailed
The redacted
description.
document might be
They
protecting
claimed
proprietary
they were
tech, not
observing
aliens.
Mars
It's
millions
incredibly
of years
easy
ago.
to
Millions.
debunk
Millions.
piece by piece.
And they
honestly.
described
But
seeing these
debunking
tall
takes effort, it
beings
requires
sheltering
careful
inside
analysis,
massive pyramidal
whereas the
structures.
Pyramids on
pattern-seeking,
Mars.
Pyramids on
that's
Mars, as
immediate,
their
it's
planet was
intuitive,
dying
it
around them,
feels
a civilization
satisfying.
facing
Ah.
extinction.
The real
Wow,
power of the
okay.
story is
That's
in the
quite a claim.
strength of
It is, and
any
it wasn't just
single
Mars.
piece of
Other
evidence.
sessions
Most
allegedly
of it is
targeted
flimsy on
well-known
its
UFO
own. The
hotspots
power
and
is in the
crash
synthesis,
sites on
the
Earth,
story
including
they tell.
Roswell.
Of course,
Odd
Roswell had to
photo
be in
plus
there.
redacted memo
And
plus
viewers
midnight
reportedly
flight
described seeing
equals
non-human
undeniable
bodies,
alien cover-up.
artifacts, all
They're
hidden away
building a
deep
narrative
inside
mosaic where
classified
the
government
whole feels
facilities.
much stronger
So not
than the
just
sum of
seeing
its
things
variants.
far away,
Let's
but
touch
seeing
briefly on
things the
scientific
government was
plausibility.
actively
Because
hiding.
the myth is clever,
That's the claim.
It borrows
It suggests the
recognizable
viewers weren't
scientific
just
ideas to make
passive
itself sound more
observers.
credible.
They were
How would a
potentially
probe even
uncovering
detect
evidence of an
alien
alien
life,
presence that was being
realistically?
actively
And what are the big
concealed.
pitfalls?
And
Well,
then there's
missions do
Wright-Patterson
routinely
Air
detect
Force Base,
organic
right?
molecules, things like
Always
amino
comes up
acids,
in these
complex
stories.
carbon structures,
Wright-Patterson.
pretty standard
Another
astrophysics
chilling
now, we find
account
them all the
involved
time.
a viewer
But
who
detecting
claimed
life,
they
that's a
psychically
whole
enter a
different, much
hidden
harder
chamber
game.
deep
Those organic
underground
signals
there.
can
What do they
easily
say?
come from
Containers.
non-biological chemistry,
Holding
or the big one,
biological
contamination from
specimens
Earth that were
before launch or
completely
after
unlike
return.
anything known
And
on
the
Earth.
visual
Alien
stuff,
bodies, basically.
seeing
That's
shapes.
the
The human
strong
brain is
implication.
basically
And
wired
another
to see
viewer,
patterns,
possibly
especially
targeting
faces or
the same
biological
location or a
forms.
similar one,
Pareidolia
claimed they witnessed
So give it a
some kind of
blurry,
psychic
ambiguous
network,
image from
something
space.
connecting
People
human
see
minds
veins
to
or a pulsing
something else,
object. It's
something
almost
beyond our
unavoidable
world,
And
out
what about the
among
pathogen
stars.
fear?
A psychic
The story
network
about
connecting us to
contractors
aliens.
getting sick,
That was the
fever,
report.
rash,
So you look at all these accounts
weird
together,
neurological
Mars,
symptoms.
Roswell, Wright-Patterson,
Logically,
psychic
what are the
networks.
chances
It
of an
paints a
alien
very
bug
different picture
instantly
than just
making
spying on
humans
the
sick?
Soviets.
Vanishingly
completely
small,
different.
most
If you take
biologists
these
would say.
reports at face
Because
value,
of fundamental
even just partially,
biochemical
the
incompatibility,
implication is huge.
we likely wouldn't even share
Project
the same
Sunstreak
kind of nucleic acids
might have
like
started
DNA
as
or RNA,
espionage,
let
but it
alone the
seems
same
to have
proteins
pivoted.
or cell structures.
It became
needed for
about
infection.
preparing for
An
contact
alien
with
microbe
non-human
probably wouldn't even
intelligence.
recognize human
Or
cells
maybe
as
more
food,
cynically,
let alone be able
about
to
making
hijack
sure that
them.
But the fear
contact
is
remained a
potent.
secret.
Oh, hugely potent.
Kept far
the
away
fear of
from the
space
public
cooties
eye.
is primal.
But the theories
the
don't
unknown
even
is
stop at
always
just
scarier than
ETs
the
from other planets, do they?
probabilistic
Some
reality.
people take it even
But
further.
here's the counter argument:
That's right.
there's a
believers
whole
always
other
have
branch
ready.
of theory
If the
suggesting
science says the
Sunstreak
risk
wasn't
is so
just
low,
encountering
why all the
extraterrestrials, but
secrecy?
potentially
Why the
interdimensional
extreme
beings.
caution
Interdimensional,
from
like
the government,
decades,
military,
right?
the
The
scientists?
U.S. government
If they're
line was
that
basically
careful, that caution must be hiding
supernatural
something way
stuff,
more
psychic
significant than
powers,
just routine
telepathy,
contamination
seeing things
protocols.
far away with your
They're
mind.
very careful
Pure
as becomes
fantasy.
proof
That's
of the
what they told
extraordinary.
everyone.
Yeah, that was the public
regardless of the
face.
biochemistry.
Complete skepticism.
Okay, so if
But,
JAXA, while that was the
really
official
found
story,
something this
behind
huge,
closed doors, the story has to go global,
Something
right?
much
Secrecy
stranger
couldn't
was
just stay
apparently
within
going
Japan.
on.
Exactly. This is like
Deep
chapter
inside
6
the
in the standard
intelligence
conspiracy
community.
playbook.
It's
The
a really
JAXA
interesting
story
contrast, isn't
quickly
it?
links up
Publicly,
with
it's all
older,
scientific
really
dismissal.
powerful global
Privately,
conspiracy
the
myths.
Pentagon,
Think
the CIA,
Roswell in the U.S. or that
they're
alleged
clearly
Virginia
wrestling with
incident
something
down in
very
Brazil.
different.
The
These
idea that
fantasies
major
suddenly
powers
become
secretly coordinate
a
these
serious
recoveries.
strategic
Precisely.
issue.
The narrative
Exactly.
goes.
And
JAXA
that
is
worry,
under
that
pressure,
sort of
maybe
creeping fear
internal,
about
maybe
psychic
external.
warfare,
They
it leads
contact
to
their
one of
allies,
the
usually
honestly
the US.
most
A
bizarre
covert
and top
agreement is
secret
hammered
projects
out.
of the whole Cold War.
And then the
Project
sample, or
Sunstreak.
maybe just the crucial
I mean,
data,
just picture
gets
it.
transferred
An actual
quietly to a
government
secure
project trying
facility
to
outside
weaponize the
Japan,
human mind.
often somewhere
Funded
like
off the
Area
books.
51
Totally
or
secret.
similar
And
US
officially,
base
the
in
cover
war.
story, or
And that
maybe the initial
international layer
idea
just
was
makes the supposed
remote
truth
viewing.
seem even
Right.
harder to
This
uncover.
Right, the
supposed
coordination of
ability
secrecy
for
among
trained
powerful
people to
nations
just
makes it feel
perceive distant
impossible
places,
to ever get
secret enemy
confirmation,
bases,
which
maybe
just
even peek into
feeds
the future.
paranoia.
All just using
But
their
if we
minds.
zoom out again,
And we should be clear, this
why
wasn't
does
some
this
like
specific
side hobby. It
JAXA
wasn't just a
story
few
stick
folks
around? Why
messing
does it
around.
have
Okay.
such resonance?
This was a strategic
Well, we
move,
touched
a
on the
direct
anxiety about
response to what they
authority,
thought
the
the Soviets were
distrust.
doing.
Yeah, I
They
think
were
that's
urgently
huge.
trying to get
It
an
feeds
edge
some
in
deep
a
psychological
completely new
needs.
kind
It
of
gives you a clear, dramatic
battlefield.
story.
And that's what we're doing today. We're going
Big,
to peel back
faceless
those layers of
institutions are
secrecy,
definitely hiding secrets
really
from you.
deep
It
dive
offers this
into Project
thrilling sense of
Sunstreak
meaning, maybe even
and
community.
the kind of wild
You know, the
conspiracy conspiracy
buzz
theories
of
that are
being
still
one of the few
swirling around
people
it.
yeah, because
in
the
the
story
know
goes
outside
way
the
beyond
mainstream
just
narrative.
And
psychic
for Japan
spying.
specifically.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, you could
It might have
argue it
cracked
taps
open the door
into
to,
Japan's
well,
complex
alien contact,
post-war
maybe
history
even
with
some
official
sources
secrecy,
suggest
government
interdimensional
authority,
conflict.
It
maybe
gets
even
pretty
its
out there.
relationship with
It
the
really
U.S.
does.
military.
So we're going to look
presence.
at where it came
Putting the
from, the really
National Space
unsettling things
Agency,
that
a
viewers
symbol of
reported
modern
seeing,
technological
the
pride, right at the
weird
center of
overlaps
this
with
kind of
old
storm.
occult stuff,
It makes
and
the
these
story
incredible
particularly
claims about
potent.
contacting.
It really is like modern folklore,
Well,
isn't it?
the
Digital
unknown.
folklore.
So yeah,
constantly
settle in.
morphing
This is
with
where
every
things get
Reddit
weird.
thread and social
So
media
where did
post.
Sunstreak
Totally.
even come from?
But what's crucial
really
to remember
kicks
as
off
we wrap
back in
this
the
up
early
is
70s.
what
There
the
was this sort
JAXA
of
found in Alien
quiet
Story
panic
really tells
brewing
us. It's less about
in
aliens
the
maybe and
intelligence
more
world
about
during
us.
the Cold War.
It's an
Right.
expression
Word
of
got
that
out
deep
that the Soviets
human
were
hunger
pouring
for
serious
cosmic
money and
connection
effort into
for neighbors out there,
parapsychology.
And not
mixed
just
with a
dabbling.
very
We're talking
pervasive,
state-sponsored
very modern
experiments,
wariness of
telepathy,
authority.
and we always have to
moving
try and hold
objects
that
with
line
the
knowing
mind,
psychokinesis,
open-minded
and
curiosity,
crucially,
and
remote
just
viewing.
Yeah, and when
credulity.
U.S. intelligence
Look,
picked up on this,
if an agency had
alarms
found
went off.
incontrovertible
Big time.
proof of
The
alien
Pentagon
life,
especially.
the
You
stakes
You can imagine
would
the
be
fear, right?
unimaginable.
What if this stuff is
Extreme
real?
caution
Even if it
would
only gives a
absolutely
small
justify
advantage.
it.
Of course. Exactly.
without
The U.S. could be
public
completely
peer-reviewed data,
blindsided in a
without
conflict
independent
that
verification,
doesn't use bombs
without
or
transparent
spies in
medical
the
records,
traditional
not just
sense.
rumors
So
and
this
redacted
perceived
files.
threat, this
This just
potential
remains
psychic
a
gap,
fascinating,
it leads
persistent
directly
rumor
to the
chain.
CIA
And
starting
those
Project
accusations,
Stargate.
the ones about
Which was
threats
kind of
and
the
silencing
umbrella
people,
program. And
we
under
have to treat
Stargate, you
those
get these
incredibly
sub-projects.
because they
Project
can
Sunstreak was one of
unfairly
them,
damage
run by the
reputations
Defense
without any
Intelligence
solid proof.
Agency,
The
the
real
DIA,
challenge for you
mostly
listening to
through
this
the
is to
1980s.
recognize the
Okay,
sheer narrative
so
power of
Sunstreak
the story,
gets going,
while still demanding
on
actual
paper,
evidence. This story isn't
its
going away
job
anytime soon
sounds,
because it asks one of
well,
the biggest
almost
questions
straightforward
ever.
for that
Are we
world.
alone?
And
Recruit
maybe
people more relevant
train
to
them
this
as
deep dive.
remote viewers.
Who gets to decide
Get them to
what we
project their
know about the
consciousness,
answer?
basically.
So here's
and
something to think
spy
about
on
long
Soviet
after this is
facilities.
over.
Gather
If
intel.
the evidence
Standard
needs
espionage,
to turn this from
just
rumor
with a very
into
unconventional
fact is being
method.
deliberately
But that's not
hidden,
how it played
like
out,
the
was
story
it?
does.
It became clear pretty fast
What
this wasn't just
specifically
about
would it
finding
take for
missile
you to
silos.
actually
No, almost
believe
right
the
away, the viewers
conspiracy
weren't just
over the official
describing,
denial?
submarine pens
Think
or
about it.
radar
What exact
installations. The data
verifiable
started
burden
getting
of proof would you personally need for
Weird
an
how.
extraordinary
Well, that
claim
was the big turning
like finding
point.
alien life?
The viewers